pag nagkakaroon.
Okay. Ay, nandito si...
We're on the same panel and shared quite similar position, and I think that Chinese delegates somehow were unhappy to hear the truth. But being the only NATO defense minister sanctioned by China for speaking the truth, I take it as a badge of honor, and therefore I'm really honored to stand next to my dear colleague. And we just concluded a very highly constructive meeting, which is in my opinion, just the beginning of a very long and fruitful relationship. I'm proud to announce that we have officially signed a Memorandum of Understanding on Defense Cooperation, a significant milestone that takes our bilateral ties to strategic level. Our discussions covered a broad spectrum of issues. We reaffirmed shared concerns over regional security, and one of the topics of common interest is maritime security, including challenges related to shadow fleets, Russian and Chinese, that are operating in your waters and in our waters, as I said, applying very similar approaches. And protection of our critical underwater infrastructure is a similar concern of ours. We shared our recent initiatives, including a regional response algorithm for undersea infrastructure threats, and I hope this is going to be useful to our colleagues here as well. We addressed critical topics like cybersecurity, where we proposed to host first bilateral consultations later this year, and invited the Philippines to take part in our national cyber defense exercise Amber Mist this November. Additionally, we agreed to explore closer cooperation in fighting hybrid threats, disinformation, enhancing societal resistance, and civil defense. And I know that Philippines are very strong in civil defense and in crisis management, when engagement of society is a critical part of the process. Your society is really resilient, your society is really strong and contributing to your total defense conception, to your civil defense concept. So I think there's a lot to share here. And on the defense industry front, we identified concrete areas of collaboration, quite a lot of them, including UAV systems, explosives production, maritime capabilities, and many others. And we welcome the possibility of deeper political and military dialogue, including mutual visits. We hope to host Philippines Department of National Defense delegation to Lithuania later this year to deepen our dialogue and cooperation. And among other topics that we discussed is possibility to have an exchange of classified information, support to Ukraine, and national security-related migration issues. Last but not least, we are looking forward to continue mill-to-mill cooperation, including through participation in exercises, including Balikatan. And I'm grateful to the government of Philippines for their warm hospitality and for sharing our commitment to strengthening regional stability, which now becomes global stability, resilience, and mutual support in the face of evolving global threats. I believe that Europe, Indo-Pacific, and United States form now a triangle of resistance, a triangle of resilience, and we need to face together all the threats that are coming our way. I'll be happy to answer your questions.
Thank you very much to the Honorable Minister Dovilė Šakalienė for visiting us. It's not an easy journey from Lithuania to the Philippines. However, in the Shangri-La dialogue, both of us agreed that we need to work together cross-regionally for several important things. First is the importance of maintaining and stressing the rule of law in the international sphere, particularly a rules-based global order. And our maritime security, which is based on fundamental principles of international law. Secondly, it's the need to resist any unilateral attempts to reword or re-engineer maritime law and the international order to the benefit of new powers that want to dominate the world and to the detriment of smaller nations. Thirdly, is the need to work cross-regionally because of shared threats and threat actors. Fourth is for the need for smaller countries who are facing the same challenges to work together in order to converge on differences that we can learn from each other in terms of resiliency, in terms of technological development and capabilities, and in terms also of international advocacy. The small nations, as our president has always said, need a firm voice in international affairs. And we both resist the nomenclature that we are mere agents of other large powers when our people bear the brunt of standing up for our own national interests and our own futures as we decide it. We have signed a Memorandum of Understanding, which on the defense side is groundbreaking in the sense that it will formalize our means to cooperate on a closer basis on a host of different things. But it is not the only purpose for the visit of the Honorable Minister here, because she will be liaising to and meeting with my cabinet colleagues in order to develop the most important element or to plant the seeds of sustainability in the most important element of our bilateral relations. That is robust, principled, and sustainable people-to-people exchanges and genuine synergy and concert of purpose and cooperation in both economic, social, environmental, military, and our political resiliences in the international sphere. There are a lot of areas of convergence, from undersea infrastructure, disruptions in other areas such as disinformation, malign information, technological development, sustainable energy, and other non-core defense areas for cooperation, which the minister will discuss with myself, has discussed with myself and cabinet colleagues. Another area where we have agreed to collaborate further is naturally information exchanges and very importantly in civil defense, which is under the Department of National Defense, to also share technologies and processes to combat climate change and to make our communities more resilient to these changes. Nonetheless, the step taken by the Honorable Minister and her government is the beginning of several steps we look forward to more visits, more exchanges, not only this year, but perhaps next year when the Philippines is at the head of the ASEAN, where perhaps also it also engenders well for the Philippines to stress the need for extra-regional collaboration in order for us to have common advocacies for the protection, especially of smaller maritime states like the Philippines. Once again, we welcome Her Honor's visit, and we look forward to a fruitful and principled partnership in the years to come. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister.
Šakalienė and Defense Secretary Teodoro. We now open the questions for our principals. There will just be a total of 4 questions that will be entertained due to time constraints. The first question will come from Mr. Jim Gomez of the Associated Press.
Good afternoon, Secretary and Minister. If I may ask my first question, I'll ask 2 different questions for each. For the Minister, Minister, at the Shangri-La Dialogue in Singapore early last month, you raised an urgent concern over what you said was the emerging authoritarian axis of China, Russia, North Korea, and Iran. So, can you tell us what's the bottom line of your concern? How is that impacting Europe, your region, and how can it impact the Indo-Pacific region? And what do you think is the proper response of the Western and allied nations? And if I may continue to read my second question for Secretary Teodoro. Secretary, Japan has proposed that the East China Sea and the South China Sea be treated by all stakeholders as one military theater. Obviously, based on the bottom line that the concerns over acts of aggression are similar in both offshore regions. My question is, what is your take on this one theater concept of Japan, and what will it entail? Thank you.
Thank you for a really great question. Well, your question by itself shows that you fully understand the complex geopolitical reality, as I said in the very beginning of my statement. And what we see now is that authoritarian states are really cooperating very efficiently, both supporting each other politically, financially, militarily. And we see one of the worst results of their cooperation in Ukraine, where Russia, working together with Iran, with North Korea, and with China, is annihilating a free and independent country in the middle of Europe. And what we see when we look at other areas of their cooperation and work, such as cybersecurity, their joint actions are threatening the free world, are threatening the democracy in this world. Democracy is already minority in the current world, and we do not have a luxury to allow it to be annihilated. Lithuania has already experienced what it means to be occupied by an empire twice, by Russian Empire and then by Soviet Russia. Now when we see what they are doing with their armed forces, with their military industry, with investments in expanding their military power and threatening others, when we hear what China is saying about Taiwan Strait, about other states around it, neighbors, that it should have nice relationship with, but we see these horrifying materials, videos, how they are threatening Philippine fishermen, how they are treating people who are simply making their living in their own waters, in their own territory, then I think it's very clear. If they work together to threaten us, then we must work together to defend ourselves and to send a very clear strategic message. We are not going to let ourselves be scared. We are not going to let them to enter our territory. We are not going to let them to change the current world order based on international rules. We are going to stand up to them together.
On the one theater concept, since the threats to Japan and the Philippines and pretty soon other like-minded countries are principally maritime, given the geography, Japan being an archipelagic nation and us, and in the aerial domain, it is reasonable, since there is no land border involved, to treat the area as one theater. That will involve synergy in operations, synergy in domain awareness, in intelligence exchange, and in mutually reinforcing our strengths to work doubly real time. That is being operationalized now by the Japanese Joint Operations Command. Right now, the Chief of Staff of the Armed Forces, but it may be the purview of the Strategic Command of the Armed Forces in the future, and the US Indo-PACOM, plus the Australian Self-Defense Force. So the operationalization will be on the military end. And the first product of this will be the Combined Coordinating Center, which will come up this December. And the RAA with Japan will increase the level of interoperability that we can have for mutual resilience and other beneficial activities, not only individually but multilaterally to us. So it is already an operating concept. It does not need any other agreement. It is a military construct and an operating concept which has been approved by the different military hierarchies concerned.
Thank you, Secretary. Thank you, Minister. Now we move on to our second question from John Eric Mendoza of the Philippine Daily Inquirer.
Yes, so good afternoon, Minister. Good afternoon. This question is addressed to Secretary Teodoro. May we ask your reaction on reports that U.S. lawmakers are looking at establishing an ammunition production and storage facility at the former American Naval Base in Subic Bay due to what they say is the lack of forward-stage ammunition manufacturing in the Indo-Pacific region? And also, sir, any updates on the MRF projects? How soon are we signing the agreement? Thank you.
On the reported production of an ammunition facility in Subic, I have yet to see a formal proposal, but naturally we will consider it, and any production entity which will be of benefit to the Philippines, and not only in terms of our resilience, but improving, giving employment and other technological transfers is definitely encouraged. Being a like-minded and a treaty partner in itself. Now, as to the MRF, we are still evaluating proposals. It is not only the purchase of the MRF per se, which we need to deal with, but also to make the MRFs operational as a force package, meaning to say, we need the AWACS capability. A lot of countries have experienced the fact that they are realizing that they need AWACS, notwithstanding the fact that their satellite capability, it's not enough. We need tankers and we need sustainment. It's easy to buy, but to maintain and to use the equipment with adequate stores, reserves, and munitions, which will add considerably to the cost of the package, must be all taken into account. And we are in constant coordination with the DOF and the DBM regarding the continuity of funding available. It is easy to buy and make the first tranche. However, what we do not want is to buy, have orders, have deliveries, and not being able to use them to their optimal, for their optimal use, and just have them flying air shows. That we will not countenance. So if you notice in the MRF package, we have increased the force size. We will not buy equipment which will not make a difference, which will not add to deterrence. Secondly, we will not buy standalone equipment. If there are standalones, fine. However, if equipment per se need support equipment, we will also have to put aside funds for that. Thirdly, we have to make adequate reserves of munitions per aircraft. And fourthly, we have to have the consensus of the finance department and the legislature that they will spend annually for adequate sustainment of these platforms so that they will not be displaced in the gates of an airbase. Those are the considerations that we need to deal with. And these are very real considerations. I know the expectations of our people, but it is my responsibility to make sure that each peso spent can be supported and justified.
Okay, our third question comes from Mikhail Flores of Reuters.
Hi, good afternoon, ministers. For Minister Šakalienė, in Lithuania's Indo-Pacific strategy, it mentioned the need for Europe to have a unified voice and avoiding divisive formats in dealing with the countries in the region. In your view, is Europe doing enough in terms of pushing back against China's actions in the South China Sea? And if not, what do you think can EU nations do more to sort of serve as a deterrent to China's aggressive actions in this part of the world? And for Secretary Teodoro, before I go to my question, and if I may, just wondering if the One Theater concept also expands to the Korean Peninsula or just the East and South China Seas. And to my question, under your watch, the Philippines has expanded its arc of alliances to include, for example, New Zealand and Japan, and now with the MOU with Lithuania. What sort of strategic value added are you seeing with this kind of cooperation with Lithuania, particularly on munitions production and on cyber security? Thank you.
Thank you. So, actually, yes, thank you for mentioning our Indo-Pacific strategy. And I believe that this sends a very clear message that we believe more should be done when we talk about cooperation, as I said, of democratic states. And even though geographically there is thousands of miles separating Baltic states and Indo-Pacific, Lithuania and Philippines, or Lithuania and Japan, or Lithuania and South Korea. But the interesting thing is that we are facing absolutely similar threats, and our hostile neighbors are using absolutely similar approach. And therefore, when you ask what more we can do to push back regarding hostile actions by China, I'd like to remind that Lithuania was the one to break down this divisive format that China was using for cooperation with European Union, where it handpicked the newer states of European Union, those who were under occupation of Russia or under partial occupation of Russia in so-called near foreign interest zone, where they were pressuring on those states. And then we clearly said that if you want to cooperate with the European Union, then it's all of us. It's not special groups for bigger or pressure or for suggesting different cooperation. We have been calling out Chinese hostile actions always, loudly and clearly. At the same time, we have been also encouraging our colleagues in European Union to have similar policies regarding sanctions, regarding clear political vision of who our partners are, of who our allies are. And if we face very direct threats from those who claim economic interest, who claim that we have a goal of having mutual benefits, but at the same time they coerce, they pressure, they threaten, they even attack people, for example, as I said, fishermen, Filipino fishermen, then it seems that we have a very clear choice. And also when we talk about energy security, critical underwater infrastructure, when we talk about investment into critical infrastructure, Lithuania has quite a clear and probably the strictest filter in all of European Union for screening investors so that they do not pose any threat after they place their investments. And we now see in very different parts of the world what happens when you get a news of certain investments around your neck and how then all the governments are being pressured. So we are happy to share that experience, and we believe that actions done together regionally and in different allied formats could have much more effect than just national position. By the way, one of the things that we are also happy to share, so in cybersecurity we have regional cybersecurity expertise centers, regional cyber defense center specifically, and we believe that it's also a very good tool. We are happy to use it together.
I think the Honorable Minister has answered the benefit to the Philippines pretty well. And for me to add would just detract from the force of the answer.
Okay. Our final question comes from Joy Cantos of the Filipino Star ngayon.
Bah. Ito ang pinakahihintay ko sa lahat eh.
Good afternoon. Sir, does the MAU includes provision for joint military exercise in a broader military spectrum, intelligence sharing, and defense technology transfers?
There will be military exchanges and maritime cooperative activities. But for broader military exercises, we need a status of visiting forces agreement. Now let's see where our cooperation will lead us to. But the important thing is we realize that we need to be together in spite of the fact that we are from different regions, because the threats and the threat actors are similar. And we have to view this from a defense angle, and it is the responsibility of defense officials to anticipate and to prepare to defend against and resist these threats.
Madam Defense Minister, labad yan na Becky Advig.
Pakiulit yung...
Filipinos.
Ano yung unang sinabi mo? Mukhang...
Labad yan na
mukhang hindi maganda pakinggan yan. Ano?
I'm just welcoming her to the Philippines.
It was
with your now.
Thank you. Thank you.
This is my question anyway. With due regards to Lithuania's strong stance against Russia and its aggression versus Ukraine, and with Philippine maritime dispute with China, how does this partnership strengthen your position in regional security issues? Because the problem is too complex. It's so legal in nature.
Can you please repeat the last part of the question? I'm so sorry.
Well, madam, I'm just asking, with your strong stance against Russia and its aggressive action against Ukraine, and with Philippine maritime dispute with China, how does it strengthen your position in regional security issues? Because the problem with China is so chronological in nature, is very complex.
Ano agaton?
Chronological in nature. I mean, I'm sorry to say that it's bad and evil. they're an emerging military titans. That's why they should want to show the world that they're a superpower too.
Thank you. It's a very insightful question, very important, and thank you so much for greeting me in Lithuanian. Laba diena is hello in Lithuanian.
Yan ba ibig mo sabihin? Hindi, yan ba ibig mo sabihin talaga? O iba yung...
I'm deeply touched. It's really a very, very warm family. Yes?
So it's Lava Diana, not the other thing.
Thank you. Well, yes, of course, this is a complex problem. And when we see the joint interests of Russia, China, and North Korea, and Iran, they are about disregarding the international order based on rules. That means they are against predictability, against equality of other states. They basically are for chaos and against stability. And I think that in this, it's not actually any room for choice for us not to stand up to them. There is no room for choice not to build alliances with those who want a safe, stable, and predictable world. And I'm sure if we do not have yet a very specific algorithm how we are going to cooperate together with Philippines, with South Korea, with Japan, with Australia, with New Zealand, we will build them because the goal is clear. We have to strengthen our defense capabilities. We have to expand our defense industry. We have to integrate new technologies, and taking into account what we learned from the battlefield in Ukraine, we have to connect our peoples, those who understand very clearly that freedom is not a given. Freedom is something you have to fight for, and sometimes fight very, very hard. So therefore, now we have a framework, now we have a way forward, now we have a clear understanding that it's going to take a lot of hard work. It's going to take a lot of resources, but our children, they deserve to live in a free world. So that's how we're going to move.
Sorry, I failed to respond to the Korean Peninsula question. Since the one theater concept is a maritime, basically a maritime construct, air construct, it involves the East Sea and the South China Sea. And the Korean Peninsula, since this is basically a bilateral between Japan and a Squad proposal, it does not include the Korean Peninsula.
Oh, and I also remembered one more thing, if possible. Regarding the earlier question and a bit of connection to this one about our cooperation, actually tomorrow I'm meeting the Migration Secretary because one of the things that we are also facing is migration streams from the former post-Soviet states, Russian-speaking. And you know that for us it is a sensitive issue. We were occupied by Russia twice, and these people live in areas that are directly under influence by Russia. And what we also know is that we do need workers. We do need people in our labor market. And we are talking to our intelligence service, military and civil intelligence, giving advice on certain possibilities. And for us, opening a dialogue with Philippines regarding migration, hearing all exceptionally positive feedback from other European states about Filipino workers and their good reputation for their high qualifications, work ethic, adaptability to local cultural environment is something that we are also willing to open dialogue upon. And moreover, Philippines is Catholic country and Lithuania is deeply Catholic country. So I think value-wise, that's one more area that connects us deeply.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much, Minister, and thank you very much, Secretary. That ends our press conference. Thank you very much. Before standing up, please, our audience, let us have the Minister and the Secretary exit.